The truth behind Gonggong crashing into Mount Buzhou is a planetary collision with Earth. Decoding the classic of mountains and seas. The classic of mountains and seas is not only a treasure house of ancient Chinese culture, but also an important document for the study of ancient Chinese history, mythology, geography, folk customs, and natural sciences. As a mysterious work full of strange imagination, it brings together a large number of ancient mythological stories and geographical knowledge, and has become an indispensable reference for future generations to study the changes in ancient Chinese thought, culture, and natural environment. The Book of Mountains and Seas has extensive content, including descriptions of many strange mountains and rivers, strange beasts and monsters, as well as ancient mythological figures. It is a comprehensive ancient book that integrates geography, history, and mythology. Among the many mythical stories in the classic of mountains and seas, the legend of Gonggong touching Mount Buzhou is particularly eye-catching. Gonggong, a water god who plays an important role in ancient Chinese mythology, is famous for his battle with Zhurong, the fire god. According to the legend, Gonggong was dissatisfied with Zhurong, and finally became angry at Buzhou Mountain due to his defeat, triggering a series of disasters that changed the heaven and earth, including the collapse of the sky and the earth, and flooding. This story not only shows the imagination and explanation of natural disasters by ancient people, but also reflects the way in which ancient people perceived natural phenomena such as heaven and earth, water, and fire. More importantly, behind this story lies the memory and inheritance of major natural disasters in ancient times. The story of Gonggong touching Buzhou Mountain is important not only because of its rich imagination and profound cultural connotation, but also because this story may contain a true record of the changes in the ancient natural environment. With the development of modern science, especially the advancement of geology and astronomy, people began to re-examine these ancient legends, trying to find clues to ancient natural disasters. If the classic of mountains and seas is a window to the ancient world, then the story of Gonggong touching Buzhou Mountain is a unique scenery. It not only connects the past and present, but also bridges mythology and science, providing us with a new perspective on the relationship between ancient humans and nature. Part 1. Analysis of the story of Gonggong touching Buzhou Mountain. The legendary background of the battle between Gonggong and Zhurong. The story of Gonggong and Zhurong, as an important chapter in ancient Chinese mythology, depicts the conflict between the gods representing the two natural forces of water and fire. Gonggong, as the water god who controls floods, and Zhurong, the fire god who controls flames, engage in fierce battles over power and territory. This struggle not only symbolizes the opposition between the two natural forces of water and fire, but also reflects the ancients' deep understanding of the conflict and balance in nature. The description and symbolic meaning of Gonggong touching Mount Buzhou. After his defeat with Zhurong, Gonggong's anger pushed him to crash into Mount Buzhou. This action triggered major natural and cosmic disasters, including the breaking of the sky pillars and the rupture of the earth dimension, symbolizing the collapse of the cosmic order. Gonggong's touching of Buzhou Mountain and its consequences not only reflect the ancients' imagination of natural disasters, but also reflect their efforts to explain the changes in the heaven and earth. The integration of the myth of Nuwa mending the sky and Gonggong touching Buzhou Mountain. Initially, Nuwa patching up the sky and Gonggong touching Mount Buzhou were two independent myths. It was not until the Eastern Han Dynasty that Wang Chong first used the story of Gonggong touching Mount Buzhou as an explanation for the background of the myth of Nuwa patching up the sky in his book Lunhen Tian Tian, and proposed a complete narrative framework of cosmic catastrophe and redemption. Wang Chong's explanation not only enriches the connotation of these two mythological stories, but also integrates them into a grand myth that expresses the theme of salvation, explains the cause of the disaster when the sky collapses and the earth collapses, and shows it through the image of Nuwa patching up the sky. The ancients yearned for the reconstruction of order and harmonious coexistence. This integration not only reflects ancient Chinese society's deep concern for cosmic disasters and restoration of order, but also reflects the process of myths being reinterpreted and given new meanings at different historical stages. The stories of Nuwa patching up the sky and Gonggong touching Mount Buzhou together form a vivid picture of how the ancients used myths to express their understanding and pursuit of natural disasters, social order, and moral concepts, which profoundly influenced the culture and thought of later Chinese generations. Part 2. The connection between ancient myths and real events. Astronomical and geological phenomena in mythology. Ancient myths, especially stories like Gonggong's touching of Mount Buzhou, are often regarded as original records of astronomical and geological phenomena in nature. Although these stories are wrapped in rich imagination and mythology, it is not difficult to find that behind them lies the ancients' meticulous observation of astronomical observations and geological changes. For example, the description of the pillars of heaven breaking and the earth becoming unstable caused by Gonggong's contact with Mount Buzhou may hint at the ancients' records and interpretations of astronomical anomalies or geological disasters such as earthquakes and landslides. This narrative style reflects the ancients' attempts to understand and explain the natural phenomena they experienced and the profound impact these phenomena had on human society. How ancient people recorded natural disasters through myth. In ancient times when written records were not yet common, myths became an important means of conveying important information and knowledge. Through myths and stories, ancient people passed down their memories of natural disasters. Although the gods and supernatural events in these stories are divorced from reality, they can vividly reflect the ancients' awe of the power of nature and their desire for social stability. The myth of Gonggong touching Buzhou Mountain is a typical example. It not only tells a story about power, conflict, and disaster, but may also reflect a specific natural disaster that ancient society suffered, as well as the causes and effects of this disaster. Understanding the possible connection between Gonggong touching Buzhou Mountain and the migration of ancient civilizations. Further exploring the connection between the myth of Gonggong touching Buzhou Mountain and real historical events, we may find a potential connection between this mythical story and the migration of ancient civilizations. Astronomical and geological disasters often had a major impact on ancient societies, forcing people to migrate in search of safer or more suitable living environments. For example, if the disaster caused by Gonggong's touch of Buzhou Mountain is regarded as a description of a large-scale natural disaster in ancient times, this disaster may have led to the collapse of the social structure at that time, the redistribution of resources, and even the migration of civilization. Through this perspective, we can not only gain a deeper understanding of the historical truth behind ancient myths, but also gain insights into how ancient people adapted to natural changes and how these changes shaped the course of human history. Part 2. The history and astronomical disasters behind the myth. From tribal conflicts to natural disasters. After in-depth analysis of the story of Gonggong touching Buzhou Mountain, we found that this is not only a myth, but also reflects the complex reality of ancient society, especially the interaction between tribal conflicts and natural disasters. Gonggong may not only represent a destructive natural force in mythology, but also symbolize a force in ancient society that was in conflict with another force headed by Zhuangzi. On the one hand, this conflict reflects the struggle between ancient tribes for resources, territory, and power. On the other hand, it may also be a projection of the powerlessness of ancient humans in the face of natural disasters. Ancient societies' understanding and response to natural disasters reflected their awe of natural forces and their adaptation to the living environment. The disasters caused by Gonggong touching Buzhou Mountain, such as monstrous floods, may be a memory and description of ancient flood disasters. These stories convey a message: natural disasters are inevitable, but through unity and wisdom, humans can overcome these disasters and restore order. Evidence and interpretation of astronomy. Ancient astronomy was not only the science of observing the movements of stars, but also an important tool for ancient people to try to understand the universe and predict natural disasters. In the story of Gonggong Buzhou Mountain, the elements of astronomy are very obvious, especially when describing the scene of the sky pillar breaking and the sky falling and the earth sinking, which reflects the ancients' profound understanding of astronomical disasters. Through the study of ancient astronomical records, we can find that some descriptions in the story of Gonggong Buzhou Mountain are surprisingly consistent with astronomical phenomena observed in ancient times. For example, astronomical events such as solar eclipses, lunar eclipses, and the appearance of comets recorded in ancient documents may be the realistic basis for the phenomena of changes in the sky and earth in the story of Gonggong Buzhou Mountain. These astronomical evidences not only provide important clues for us to interpret ancient myths, but also reveal how ancient people combined astronomical observations with myth creation to explain and record major events in nature. To sum up, from tribal conflicts to natural disasters, to astronomical evidence and interpretation, we can see that the story of Gonggong Buzhou Mountain is the crystallization of ancient human wisdom. It not only records the ancients' observations and understanding of nature, but also reflects their helplessness and tenacity in the face of natural disasters. Through modern interpretations of these ancient stories, we can not only better understand ancient culture and science, but also draw wisdom and courage in dealing with natural disasters. Part 3: Scientific basis for the planetary impact hypothesis. Geological evidence. In recent years, the progress of geology has provided us with a new perspective to interpret the real events behind the story of Gonggong Mount Buzhou in the classic of mountains and seas. There are numerous impact craters on the Earth, and these celestial impact relics provide geologists with important clues to study the early history of the Earth and the impact of extraterrestrial objects. By analyzing the size, shape, and distribution of impact craters and the chemical composition of surrounding rocks, scientists can infer the scale, timing, and impact of the impact event. When exploring the story of Gonggong Mount Buzhou, geological evidence reveals that the Earth may have suffered one or more major planetary impacts in ancient times. For example, special minerals left behind by impact events, unusual stratigraphic arrangements, and distinctive isotope ratios all provide strong support for the planetary impact hypothesis. These geological discoveries echo the great changes in heaven and earth described in the story of Gonggong Buzhou Mountain, providing scientific basis for the real events that may be hidden behind this ancient myth. Planetary impact and changes in the Earth's environment. Planetary impact events have profound effects on Earth's spin axis and environment. Scientific research shows that large-scale impact events may cause the Earth's rotation axis to shift instantaneously. This violent physical process can trigger global climate changes and extreme environmental events. For example, the huge energy generated by the impact will eject large amounts of dust and debris into the atmosphere, blocking sunlight, causing global temperatures to drop, and even triggering a nuclear winter effect. In addition, planetary impacts may also cause global flooding and polar shifts. The ocean near the impact point will generate tsunamis due to the huge impact force, and the release of huge energy may also cause the ice caps to melt, increase sea levels, and then cause widespread flooding. If the impact force is large enough, it can even affect the Earth's rotation axis, causing the Earth's axis to shift, which will have a fundamental impact on the Earth's climate system and ecological balance. Connecting these scientific discoveries with the story of Gonggong Mount Buzhou, it is not difficult to find that the great changes in the world described in ancient legends may be a mythical expression of ancient planetary impact events and their impact on the Earth's environment. This perspective not only provides new understanding of how ancient people recorded and explained natural disasters through mythology, but also demonstrates the surprising resonance between ancient mythology and modern scientific research. Part 4. Gonggong touches Buzhou Mountain from the perspective of modern science. In recent years, the development of geology has provided us with a new perspective to interpret the ancient myth Gonggong touched Buzhou Mountain in the classic of mountains and seas. Geological evidence shows that there have indeed been several large-scale planetary impact events in the history of the Earth. These events have had a profound impact on the Earth's geographical environment and biodiversity. For example, the extinction of the dinosaurs about 65 million years ago is generally believed to have been caused by a large meteorite impacting the Earth. In this context, some scholars have suggested that the story of Gonggong touching Buzhou Mountain may be a mythical memory of a real celestial impact event in ancient times. Tarim Basin Impact Event. It is particularly noteworthy that certain geological features in the Tarim Basin area are thought to be related to an ancient celestial impact event. The Tarim Basin is located in western China and is an inland basin covering a huge area. The special geological structure and rare element distribution found in this area provide possible evidence for the celestial impact theory. If the impact was large enough, it could have caused significant climate change and environmental damage, enough to be recorded by ancient people and passed down as myth to this day. Geologists discover connection to myth. Geologists have begun to explore possible connections between ancient myths and geological events through the study of impact craters, unusual element distributions, and ancient climate changes. For example, by analyzing unusual elemental content in sedimentary rock layers and evidence of ancient extreme climate events, scientists can deduce the approximate time of occurrence and then compare it with the time recorded in ancient documents. This interdisciplinary research approach provides new clues to our understanding of the real events that may be hidden behind ancient myths. The relationship between ancient astronomical observations and mythological stories. From an astronomical perspective, the ancients' observations of astronomical phenomena were extremely detailed and precise. Ancient astronomical records have been found in many civilizations, and they detail astronomical events such as solar eclipses, lunar eclipses, and the appearance of comets. For the ancients, these astronomical phenomena were not only a part of nature, but also a manifestation of the God's will. Therefore, they were often given rich symbolic meanings and incorporated into myths. Applying this to the story of Gonggong touches Buzhou Mountain, we can speculate that ancient people may have witnessed some rare astronomical phenomena and geographical changes, including pole reversal, pole shift, floods and other spectacular events. In ancient times, it is likely to be woven into myths and legends as it is passed down from generation to generation through human mouths. The story of Gonggong touching Buzhou Mountain may be the memory of such an astronomical event, passed down in the form of myths, and becoming an important clue to understand the astronomical knowledge and cosmology of ancient people. Part 5. Reconstruction of geographic and historical background. The possible location and significance of Buzhou Mountain. Buzhou Mountain is an important and mysterious geographical term in the classic of mountains and seas, and its specific location has always been the focus of research by researchers. Ancient humans had no concept of country, only the consciousness between tribes. The geographical scope described in the classic of mountains and seas is the mountains and rivers of the world. The classic of mountains and seas is known as the ancient map of the world. It describes a wide geographical range, covering the world known to ancient humans, from the surrounding areas of China to beyond the ancient four seas. In the ancient book The Classic of Mountains and Seas, Buzhou Mountain may not only be a specific geographical location, but also a symbol, representing the sacred mountain that supports the heaven and earth in the minds of the ancients. Buzhou Mountain is described as a mountain of great significance. Its collapse symbolizes the rupture of the old order between heaven and earth and the establishment of a new order. For example, the sun, moon, and stars set in the west, and rivers and lakes flow in the east. This has been going on for tens of thousands of years, right? If it is caused by Gonggong touching Buzhou Mountain, can it be said that Gonggong is the founder of a new order, a new era, and a new world? Maybe the Buzhou Mountain that Gonggong knocked down is the sacred mountain that blocks the evolution of human civilization and imprisons the progress of human thought. Correspondence from the classic of mountains and seas to modern geography. Trying to match the descriptions in the classic of mountains and seas with modern geographical knowledge is a challenge, but it is also an important way to understand ancient geographical concepts. Although the mountains, rivers, lakes, and seas in the classic of mountains and seas have a strong mythological flavor, they to some extent reflect ancient people's observation and understanding of the natural environment. For example, some studies believe that certain place names and natural phenomena mentioned in the classic of mountains and seas may have been based on ancient people's actual observations of the natural environment at that time. Through oral transmission and literary processing, they formed the content we see today. This process not only reflects the accumulation of ancient geographical knowledge, but also reflects the ancients' imagination and understanding of the world. The connection between mythological geographical symbols and actual geographical features. Correlating the mythological symbols in the classic of mountains and seas with actual geographical features provides us with a unique perspective on interpreting ancient documents. For example, the mention of the Tarim Basin impact may be the result of ancient people's observations of astronomical phenomena, which they used to explain various phenomena in nature. The description of Buzhou Mountain may be a mythical memory of a geographical landmark or major geological event in ancient times. This practice of mythologizing specific astronomical and geological events was one way ancient people tried to understand and record the natural world. The bridge between ancient and modern geographical knowledge, an investigation of the African Rift Valley and the East African Rift Valley. When exploring the possible geographical location of Buzhou Mountain, it is interesting to note that some modern scientific discoveries, such as the African Great Rift Valley and the East African Great Rift Valley, may provide us with new clues. These geological phenomena are one of the most spectacular geological features on the Earth. Their formation process and impact on the Earth's ecological environment are strikingly similar to the symbolic meaning of Buzhou Mountain in the Book of Mountains and Seas. The existence of the Great Rift Valley in Africa shows that huge changes have indeed taken place on the Earth's surface, and these changes are enough to change the geographical landscape and even affect the global climate. The similarity between such geological evidence and the descriptions of ancient myths may reveal the ancient people's keen observation and deep understanding of changes in the Earth's natural environment. In short, the exploration of the story of Gonggong touches Buzhou Mountain and the real events behind it not only deepens our understanding of ancient myths, but also demonstrates the rich exchanges and interactions between ancient cultural heritage and modern scientific research. Through analysis from the perspective of modern science, we can speculate that it may be based on a series of real natural events, such as geological disasters, celestial impacts, or extreme climate changes. The scientific interpretation of ancient myths has opened a door for us to understand the ancient human knowledge system and cosmology. Not only can we unearth the records of natural phenomena contained in them, but we can also delve into the ancients' preliminary understanding and imagination of the scientific principles behind these phenomena. This cross-era exchange demonstrates mankind's wisdom and courage in continuing to explore the natural world, and also emphasizes the complementarity and inseparability of science and culture in the development of human society. Future research will continue to deepen the integration between ancient cultural heritage and modern science, and explore more natural science knowledge hidden in ancient myths, documents, and ruins. With the deepening of research in archaeology, geology, astronomy, and other disciplines, we have reason to expect that the relationship between ancient mythology and modern science will reveal more profound insights into the relationship between humans and the natural world.